Alright, so let's put the tips of these crayons here. It's usually a richer color. The crayon is a richer, the actual wax on the crayon I've noticed is a deeper, richer color than the paper that they have around it. So I like to leave the paper area a little more muted and then save that spot of bright color for the actual crayon that the paper is wrapped around. So this is straight cobalt blue here. It's a nice little burst of color, and then you can also make it look as though it's turning around by putting a little bit of a lighter version of the color where the light is hitting it. And adding white to it cools it also, so it's correct where temperature is concerned too. But just to warm it a little more, we could add like some Terra Rosa to the blue, something orange, Terra Rosa, green, anything that's warmer than blue, add it to the shadow area, and then it really takes on the correct form. Alright, so again, we'll put some pattern on there. Now, I don't think I want to put the crayon pattern, even though it's on every single crayon. I don't necessarily want to put it on each crayon, just the ones where I feel it's necessary, the ones that are more prominent, like this blue one right here in the front. I think that if we put the pattern on enough of them, our eye, because of the way that our minds work, will put things together, even if it's not on each crayon. And to me, it'll make it even more interesting if we leave some of it implied. It just, compositions, an entire painting really is stronger when some things are just left implied. Even like a movie, good directors know that things that are left up to the viewer to interpret or to put together themselves, not necessarily so open-ended that there's no explanation for anything, like abstract art, but something that's left up for the viewer's eye to mix together or to interpret. There's enough information on there that they know what it is, but then as we come near the edges of this, leaving some things just implied or unresolved makes it so interesting. And a director, good movie director or film director knows that. And they do the same thing. They employ the same concepts in their work. And they make successful films or television shows. Okay, so just a few more things to resolve over here. I have some yellow crayons. I also have some brown crayons, some gray ones. I don't want to forget about those just because of all the pretty colors of these other ones here. We need the full spectrum. We have a brown one here, but there's some deeper browns here. And I want to put those in because to me, they're just as important and they complement it. They complement the brighter colors here. So Terra Rosa, some white, mixing in a little bit of the green to cut some of that red. Terra Rosa can get pretty red. So putting some of that in. And what I'm doing is I'm putting in what I would consider sort of a base color or local color, whatever you want to call it, and I'll adjust to them because like I said on Sunday night, there's variety and each of them is different, a slightly different shade of the same color, even though these are all some sort of brown, that each one is a slightly different shade of brown. So I want to try and match those as closely as I can, not for the sake of just being accurate, but also for the sake of creating variety. And I think that maximum randomness is important in a painting because it's so prevalent in nature. There are no two snowflakes alike, no two faces except identical twins that are exactly alike. Something about each face each person's face makes them different, and there are what we call idiosyncrasies to each face or each snowflake. And so there should be the same in painting, and if you'll do that, if you'll endeavor to do that, your painting will have a realistic look to it. It'll have a very interesting, natural look to it, and that's what I want for my paintings, at least. So I like to put those laws to the test. Not rules, but the laws of science. I like to make sure I adhere to them in my paintings. A law to me would be warm light, cool shadows, or cool light, warm shadows. You can't get around those. Those are laws. So instead of trying to come up with a way to work around them, I'd rather work with them and understand them. Okay, some darker shadows throughout here. I want to be careful not to go too dark in this area here. I like sort of not having anything overly dark. I just want to make sure that it has variety of brushwork and color. I almost like it at this point. I want to be very careful not to overwork this area because it's so interesting at this point to me, and that's just my opinion. There's not a rule behind that, but to me it's so interesting the way that it is right now, and I don't want to lose that. And there's something lost when you overwork an area, or you put what I say you put more information than is absolutely necessary. Like I just said, I'd rather imply certain things, and this to me is resolved enough that you can really understand what it is. But even though these are underdeveloped here, these are really just a few brush strokes of color, it's still evident that they're crayons. So I don't have to put as much information in these as I do here. I'm going to put more information, but not as much as what I put here or here. And that gives strength to the areas that are more resolved. Okay? And it's impressionistic, but it makes these look more realistic because you're comparing. Your eye will compare them, and it will actually look more real.